Thanks for tuning in to today's Horsewoman podcast. Our show explores women in the horse industry as they share their dreams, challenges, successes. What drives these women? Well, let's find out. Good morning, this is Rose Cushing, and I am in Burgaw, North Carolina today with Melissa Deal. And Melissa has Victoryland Dressage, home of Compassionate Horse Click. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about how you came to horses.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
They tell me, and of course I wasn't cognizant of that age, but they tell me that my first word was daddy and my second word was horse. So I don't know if that's really true, but I think it stands to reason, right? My aunt and uncle actually had horses, and so I was exposed to them at a very early age. And from kind of that point on, I don't remember a time when horses were really central in my life or when I wasn't like super drawn to them. This sounds silly, but very early they bought me a little rocking horse on springs, and I would have my mom pack my lunch every day so that I could go to Texas. And she would be like, "Are you sure you can't stop by and get your lunch on the way?" And I was like, No, North Carolina's not on the way. So I was into riding very early on my rocky horse. And by the time I was 9, I was convinced I was a horse trainer. And my mom ended up getting me formal riding lessons because she was afraid I was going to kill myself, because every time she turned around I was crawling through somebody's fence and crawling up on some horse bareback without a bridle and stuff. And so that's kind of how I got started. She just found the best hunter, well, in our area, right? Then it was hunters, right? So she found the best hunter jumper trainer she could find, and that's how I got started.
Very nice. And so did you start right out showing?
I didn't, of course. No, my instructor, her mother actually was the founder of the Madison Square Garden Horse Show. So she was very old school, right? And so you were gonna earn everything. And so we got to showing, but it was a while for sure.
When did you get your first horse?
9.
Okay.
So my grandmother had a habit of letting me earn money and giving me a little bit of money, like $20 here, $20 for my birthday and different stuff, and I saved all my money. And so I had $500. And so my aunt and uncle and my mom and dad, we all went off to this horse trader, right? And the horse I wanted was $800, right? And so I had 5. And so my mom and dad loaned me $300, and I bought my first $800 horse at 9 years old.
Very good. Very good. And what did that horse teach you?
Oh my, well, that's powerful. And to this day, I use that one lesson with many, many people. And that is, when you buy a horse that is not healthy, right? That is underweight, or his feet aren't good, or maybe he's wormy, or maybe his nutrition's not great, or maybe he's lacking nutrients, he will be a very different horse when you get him home and get him healthy. He will be fat and sassy and not the same horse that you met, and that was what happened.
For sure. That's a very good lesson, and one we all need to adhere to. Definitely. So tell me a little bit more about how you got into your training business.
Okay. Well, so I started riding hunters, and I worked for my trainer at the time a lot. And then I had to sell my horse to go to college. And so I was the first intern at North Carolina State University in their horse unit there. And I begged, and they finally were like, okay. And then they started an internship program from that. But when I left there, the English was kind of left behind for a while, the hunter jumper stuff, and I actually did all these things I had no intention of ever doing, from showmanship and colt starting to Western pleasure showing, and actually fitted horses for halter, and ended up on a judging team. So I was for several years on a competitive judging team and ran around the country judging all kinds of horses and all kinds of events. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
And I never even knew anything like that existed. So that broadened my horizons in ways that I can't even imagine. And then I left there, I worked in the racehorse industry for a little while in between undergraduate and graduate school. And that was really fun. I got to go to Keeneland and buy and sell colts and babies and stuff. So that was super fun. And then ended up going to graduate school for my master's in physiology and equine reproduction. So I specialized in equine reproduction. And leaving there, I went on to teach in several colleges and equine universities in their equestrian programs.
Wow.
Yeah, so then that opened up a lot of doors for me, right? So then I ended up working for the 7-time chef of the dressage Olympic team, and her daughter, who's a world-class event rider, after that. And I had a plan, like I had a goal. I was like, by the time I turned this age, I'm going to move home. I was very close to my father and my aunt and uncle, and I was like, I want to move home at this age. So a couple years into that, I was like, all right, I've hit my point, right? I got to go. And so I ended up moving home, and then designing some farms here in Wilmington for some people and stuff like that. And I got a really bad fall, and then couldn't walk for a while. So I didn't stop horses, but I did stop like doing it professionally for a little while, so that I could pay off all those doctor bills and all that kind of stuff. But then that just kind of naturally morphed back into people being like, oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And so that I've been teaching riding lessons since I was probably 15 years old. And so it just kind of naturally blossomed again.
Mm-hmm. So your program now, you've done a lot of new things with that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So in the midst of all of that graduate school stuff, I was hungry. I mean, I was waiting tables and literally counting quarters to put gas in my car. And of course I had a horse. What was I thinking? Right. And I needed a job, another job. And a lady offered me a job teaching dressage. And I was like, oh, all I want to do is jump. All I want to do is jump. I hate dressage. It's so boring. And she said, how hungry are you? And I said, really, really hungry. She said, well, if I teach you, will you do it? So I said, sure. So that's how my love of dressage started. She was very classical, very kind. Everything was so just smooth, and she was always looking for harmony, and there were no horses that were hurting, no horses that were spooking, no horses that were scared on purpose. You know, it wasn't being instilled by the human. She wasn't using fear. Right? And so although at the time I didn't really realize where that was going, another bizarre thing kind of happened, and that was I came home one weekend from graduate school, and my daddy said, come look at the television. And I was like, what? And he was like, come here, look at the television. This is you. This is going to be your life. And I was like, what? And there's these people clicker training horses jumping. And I looked at him and I said, I am a professional and I will never hand feed. And I walked out and turned to my heel, and of course I knew everything then, right? And his mouth was just hanging open. Right, and so that was kind of like a little foreshadowing, right, in my life. And so I went on with my dressage and all that, and after I got hurt, you know, gradually started back into teaching and that kind of thing. And I wanted an international horse, and somebody called me and said, hey, I found this horse, I think he'd be your international horse. He doesn't have, he's really in trouble behavior-wise, right, and I think you could save him. Right? So we look at him, we try to buy him. The lady wants an enormous amount of money for him, but I can't even see him be ridden because he hits the mounting block and he rears. And he cannot take a step away from the mounting block. He just rears, goes down. The trainer was really adept. She'd like wrap her arms around his neck and hang on for dear life.
Oh my God.
Oh, she was amazing, right? But nobody could ride him.
Yeah.
So I kept trying to be like, oh, make this deal with this lady. And my husband was turning the video camera. I'm like, what are you doing? He's my favorite one. He's like, no, right? We don't pay thousands and thousands. I mean, we're talking a lot of digits. And I was like, come on, right? And he was like, no way. So I never could get the horse. And it ended up that about a year later, a friend of mine called and said, I think I have your horse on the trailer. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, I was down in Wellington, and I think I got him, and I'm going to sell him to him. I'm going to fix him and make a lot of money off you, she said. So I was like, all right. She called me a year later crying. She said, you can ride him, you can have him. So I said, okay. So I rode him. I brought him home. And long story long, we ended up figuring out he had a neurologic problem. He had a wobbler surgery. After the surgery and his recovery, he was more terrified than he'd ever been. He was worse than he'd ever been, right? And to this point, he's flunked out of multiple, right, international level trainers programs. He's flunked out of some of the best horsemen that I know of, like, you know, Buck Brannaman style horsemen people, right? I mean, he's just flunked out of everything, and we were thinking about putting him to sleep. Several veterinarians had agreed, yeah, not a bad idea. And I was desperate. So I went to a clinic, a positive reinforcement clinic, and I sat in the back and I rolled my eyes and acted like a child and made a lot of crass comments. And I watched all day, and the longer I watched, the more I paid attention. I was like, hey, there's something to this, and I'm desperate, right? And so that was my start. That horse brought me to positive reinforcement, and that changed my life. And not only has it changed my life, it's changed hundreds, at least, maybe more, of women's and horses' lives around the world.
Right.
So that's what we do now. You know, we do dressage certainly, but we work with horses of all disciplines and all types, and people of all genres and walks of life, mostly women, because that's who it appeals to, right? But we have an online course and community called Compassionate Horse Click, and people can get 24-hour help through that. We also do online lessons, and we do live lessons and clinics as well. But it has been so life-changing for me. I started it really just as a part of my business. I wanted to share the positive mission. I had no idea that inspiring women to train horses kindly and compassionately was going to change their lives, right? So the transformation in me was huge, and I thought, well, I'm the only one. Maybe I was just kind of a hard person, because I had a lot of hard training growing up. I mean, you know, like
old school stuff.
Yeah, real old school. And I had been a Buck Brannaman protege mini-me for like 10 years, right? So, I mean, I was dyed in the wool horsemanship. Yeah. So it was a hard change for me to make. So I thought, well, it's just me. I was a hard person, right? And I'd learned these hard tactics with horses, and so I thought the transformation was just going to be for me. But what I have found is that inspiring women to work with horses in a kind of effective way ends up giving them a different worldview, right? They start to, that positivity kind of bleeds into every area of their life, and they start to see themselves differently. And not only do their horses become more joyful and more confident, they become more joyful and more confident as they build this really deep, powerful connection between themselves and their horses. And so that's what we're about now.
Hey y'all, this is Lonnie from Mule City Specialty Feeds located in Benson, North Carolina. It's almost springtime. Is your horse blooming? Does your horse have a shiny coat and healthy hooves? How much extra time and money are you spending mixing supplements in the feed room when you could be enjoying your horse in the arena or out on the trail? Then look no further. Mule City Specialty Feeds has a line of equine feeds that delivers maximum nutrition, from your performance horse to your weekend trail horse. Our line of maximum nutrition equine feeds offers 5 different complete balanced formulas that will take you out of the feed room and into the saddle. In addition to equine feeds, we also offer complete feeds for your barnyard pets and livestock. For more details, visit our website at mulecity.com, follow us on Facebook, or give us a call at 1-800-587-9229. And don't forget, Mule City delivers.
I think that's so amazing. And isn't it funny how everything I know about training horses through all my interviews and all these years, I apply to my life, my children, my business, everything. Because all of those rules hold fast no matter what you do.
It is so true. I had a lady tell me the other day, this is so much like raising a child. And I was just like, wow, because I don't have children.
Yeah.
But she was like, it is so much like raising a child.
Yeah.
Because we need them to be safe, but we want them to be happy and confident. And we want to certainly inspire them and instill in them a neuroplasticity that helps them think and problem solve, and not only helps them do that, but helps them enjoy it.
Yes.
Right? And so the research shows that with the positive reinforcement, that is what happens, right? We actually build different neural pathways in their brain through positive hormonal cascades that they get for being rewarded for doing tasks or for a certain state of being, right? And so then they become happier and happier and more joyful in their work and more willing to work, and they want to problem solve. And then what I see as a side effect, completely unexpected, is that it happens to the humans too. And it's just been an amazing ripple effect. I've been so blessed by it.
Well, going back to the horse that you had that was so terrified, if you were set up to fail, you're always in a state of terror and dread, but when you realize that how you are is okay and that you can make it in the real world, then you stop dropping that guard and that defensive stuff. And I can see that with that horse, and that's why your positive reinforcement helped him and why it helps us as people. So what a brilliant thing that you're doing.
Well, I never even thought about it. I was just very, very fortunate to get connected with the right people. And that horse is actually my star horse. He does all of our advertising and our demos, and he's the star of our Compassionate Horse Click online course. And so it really has been an amazing. He really changed my life, and it has been the what's the word I'm looking for? The catalyst, I think, for spreading the mission around the world, just to inspire women to enjoy their horses like never before.
You used him in the grooming segments that we did, I believe, and I remember filming him way early on when you first had gotten him. So what a difference!
Yeah, it's been a huge change. It really has, and we were able to take him back into the competitive dressage arena and win awards and those sorts of things, and have him do that happily and joyfully and calmly and those sorts of things. So that is really, one of my visions, is to be able to say to people who are competing, it can be different. You know what I mean? Your horse doesn't have to respond to you because he's fearful. Your horse can respond to you because he wants to.
Absolutely. And if you've got a partner, even if it's your husband and you're going shopping and he wants to be there, it's
Totally
a much better ride.
Yes, ma'am. You are so right. You are so right.
So tell me a little bit about some of your experiences with your training that you've had. You went down to Wellington a lot, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am. I've been to Wellington for several seasons, and it's been a different experience every time. I work with a couple of super kind trainers. One of them has spent a lot of time in Europe that just doesn't use spurs, doesn't use a whip, and is very successful, right, in the dressage arena. And specializes in rehabilitating, older horses and stuff like that. It's just amazing. And then I also work with no judge, Gary Rockwell, and he also is very kind to the horses and very fair. And so they actually allow me to incorporate my positive reinforcement into that training and those rides, so that's been very helpful. This last year, of course, was before COVID, that when I went down for the season, and I did come away with it with a really different perspective. I met a lot. I was in a busier barn. I was closer to the show facilities. I was at the show facilities a lot more and stuff than I have been in the past. And what I saw was a lot of people striving to be what they thought their horse needed them to be, but yet the women and the horses weren't thriving in that situation. And it was heartbreaking for me. It had a big impact on me. And I had to come home and process that. And that just made me more determined, right, that what I'm doing is important and that I need to find a way to spread it to the world, because we need to enjoy our horses. We need to enjoy our lives. This life is so short, and we just have such a precious little bit of it. And we are drawn to horses for a reason, because they're good for the inside of our soul. But we need to be good for the inside of theirs too, right? And so I think that, especially, at my age, right, the women that I work with are usually between 25 and 75, right? A majority of them falling in that middle age range to older. And we're in a different place in life, right? We're in a place where we want to have a relationship with a horse, where we want to know them intimately, where we want them to trust us, and we want to be able to trust them. And we want to know that we're being safe. And it's really not most women, we might think, right, that we want to dominate and we want to use punishment and all those things, right, because it works, right? The research shows that punishment works. It's gratifying for the punisher, right? And so in that vein, you get an immediate change in the horse. But the thing is, it only works as long as the threat of punishment is always intimate, right? Even if it's only in the horse's head, even if he thinks it could happen again, but that threat of punishment has to remain. And that's really not how women are nurturers, right? We're kind, we're giving, we're wired to be nurturers. We're not wired to be domineering punishers. And so I think that's what I walked away with is, wow, you know what? This style of positive reinforcement training, it really does feed the soul, and it fits women in the most important place, which is in their heart.
We can't be successful without your donations as our partners. Every event that Cushing Media Productions produce donates $1 from ticket sales to Cushing Equestrian Fund. Join us, Cushing Equestrian Fund, your trusted source in an emergency. Follow us on Facebook, and you can donate on our website, www.cushingmedia.net.
I mean, nothing makes you feel worse than have to spank your kid.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I mean, nothing makes you feel worse. So if there's a better way and you don't have to, then why? Why fight all that stuff and you're not happy yourself, and the horse sure isn't happy.
It's true.
So learn the better way.
What I see, though, the objections that I see to this style of training are that people are like, oh, I don't want my horse to be mouthy, right? I don't want him to be bitey. I don't want him to be fighty. Well, what I see is that when people try to use food in the training without any guidance and without any knowledge, then they create that. Yes. But the truth of the matter is most of them have already created that unless they don't feed treats at all without even trying to use it for training. They're just trying to be kind, and they're handing out treats, and the horse sees them as a candy machine, right? So the horse is slobbering all over you, and you might be pushing you around a little bit, and you might be nibbling at your sleeve, and that's just the bare bones of it, right? So I encourage people to, if you're going to use food, like, get some help, learn how to use it correctly. We have tons of free resources at CompassionateHorseClick.com, and we have a YouTube channel. Victory Land Dressage has a YouTube channel. Melissa Deals Victory Land Dressage. But the thing is, it's just, I don't care who you get it from somebody who knows what they're doing, of course, and they're certified, positive reinforcement training coaches, which I am one, right? But I'm also certified in dressage and hunter jumper and Western pleasure and all that jazz. But the point is, there are resources out there, and it can be life-changing if people are just willing to step outside the box and try something a little different.
Absolutely. If you start your day out and you're pleasant and kind and in a good, positive mood all day, your day runs smooth and you're happy and you sleep good at night. Why not put that into your horse training so that every day is that way for you and him? You
are really good at relating. I don't know that much about people and behavior, but you're really good at relating the things that go with the horses to the human.
Well, I try to put it in human terms, because I've had a lot of opportunity to see how the people and the horse training really blends together. And in my life and with my kids and my grandkids, I realized that when I raised foals, I used to have a breeding farm for a long time, that I talked to my babies like they were my children.
Interesting.
I expected from them what I would have expected from my children, and they gave it to me. And there was no fighting, there was no arguing. They just knew that I didn't allow them to bite me, I didn't allow them to kick me, and they fell right in. It was no problem. So everything I learned in horse world has applied to my real life too.
That's interesting. Well, when I walked away from Wellington, one of the big changes that happened to me was I came home and said, I need to delve more heavily into human behavior and psychology, right? Because the horse for me is at this point in my life, a lot of it's very natural and it just kind of flows for me and I don't have to think about it. But what I do need to be able to do is communicate what I am doing to others in a way that they can replicate it with their horse, right? Because everybody kind of they are their own trainer, whether they think they are or not, right? And if I can say one thing to the people that are listening to this program is, you can train your horse. You can train your horse in a kind, effective, compassionate, loving way, and you can have a horse that trusts you, and the two of you can have confidence not only in yourselves, but also in each other.
Yeah, and I think that, by giving them that power and that knowledge, it changes them because they realize that probably the reason they haven't been necessarily successful in relationships or in friendships or even in jobs is that they don't know how to communicate. And when you learn how to communicate in the right way, it'll take you wherever you want to go.
That is a huge piece, and that's something that we have on our docket for this year to add to our course is a whole section, because I didn't realize what you're saying, how true it is. I didn't realize that for me, it's very, at this point in my life, of course, after years and years and thousands of hours and dollars, to be able to read a horse very easily. But the majority of people who come to us, women who come to us that want help with their horses, or even if they just want a deeper relationship, they think that they are reading their horse. And in some cases they are, but they don't realize that there are many deeper layers to being able to not only understand what their horse is communicating to them, but how they are communicating to their horse through their body language and their words and their vibe and their energy and their breath and all of those things. So that is a huge key piece that I'm actually working on a mini course right now that talks about, like, first, how to get yourself in the right head space and heart space, and then second, how to learn what your horse is trying to say to you and understand what you're accidentally or purposely saying to it. And then the third part is how to start with the positive reinforcement. So I'm working on a mini course for that right now. So that's a really huge point, Rose. Thank you.
And people don't realize my stallion is gentle as a kitten, and my friend broke him for me, and I hadn't ridden him in a while, so I needed him to have a tune-up because he was a young stallion and I'm an old fat lady, so I didn't want to have a bad accident. So I went to his house, and all day I thought, I'm going to fall off. So I changed my pants so I wouldn't ruin my new pants in the mud. I made sure I went to the bathroom. I did all those things. I didn't fall off, but I never got on him because when I needed to get on him, he didn't have a mountain block, and I stepped up on the bucket. And my young stallion stood there and never even twitched his ears, and I'm hanging upside down from the stirrup because the bucket turned over and dumped me out.
No!
So if you have it in your mind that you're going to fail, you will.
Absolutely.
And if you don't put that right picture in your mind and get your mind in the right place, like you're saying, you'll never be successful.
You are so right. It's so important to be able to have that inner softness, that inner confidence, that inner openness is super important.
And I knew he wouldn't hurt me, but I didn't know that I was going to do all that.
Right. There's a lot of ways to get hurt. The horse never means to hurt you.
He never even moved in the
Well, I
bucket
shouldn't
shop.
say never, but the majority. It's just not in horse's nature.
No,
they're not aggressive by nature.
Subscribe to the first podcast exclusively for horsewomen about horsewomen. Listen to successes, issues, dreams, plans, and all about our industry. Meet some of the most influential women in the horse industry. Everything from the grassroots to the women in the spotlight. Women just like you. Today's Horsewoman. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. New episodes every Tuesday. We look forward to spending time with you each week. And if you have a great story, let us know. This is a Cushing Media production. Keep riding, keep learning, and keep listening.
So what advice would you give to women coming into this industry that would help them leave their mark on the horse world, so to speak?
It would be to always be a student of the horse, but also to always be willing to learn from your client and realize that your client really does know their horse they might not know the general things that we know as professionals. As professionals, we generally know what to expect from a horse, and the client might not have that many miles. But at the end of the day, it's important to listen to the horse, because the horse is going to tell you a lot, and they're going to tell you fast. If you're willing to and have the skill to understand what the horse is telling you through their behavior, through their expressions, right? I'm not talking about animal communication, because I'm certainly not an animal communicator. But if you can hear that, right, and heed it, right, respond appropriately, but also don't dismiss your client as just a plebeian amateur. Right? Because the client also comes with a knowledge of that horse and a history and a background, and that is very, very valuable. And to me, if you put those two things together, that's the key to unlocking whatever it is you need to do to help them be successful together. And it's not about you as the trainer being successful. It's about your client and the horse being successful doing what they want to do, not what you think the horse has the potential to do, not what you think they should do, not what you think they're capable of, but what they truly in their heart of hearts want to do.
Very, very good advice. Thank you. What's left on your bucket list?
Oh, wow. So my bucket list is kind of big, so I had to narrow it down because I knew you were going to ask me this question, right? But I think first on my list is to make Compassionate Horse Click into a nonprofit, so that it will, my hair's just standing up talking about it, I know it's the right thing to do, to somehow, maybe nonprofit's not the right vehicle, we're looking into that appointment now with attorney, but to make it into an entity that will outlast my lifetime, because the effects have just been way beyond anything that I could have dreamed of or purposely done, right? It's definitely not to my credit, but so I want it to be out there to influence, people and horses and women for the rest of time, if I can make that happen. To spread the mission of inspiring women to enjoy their horses like never before, all around the world, right? To as many horses and people as I can get it to, so that the people, the horses have their people, and those are the people that I want to reach, the people that have a heart for the horse, truly. I have a big dream of starting a school for young people who want to learn this type of positive reinforcement training, right? And I'm not talking about, please don't misunderstand, I'm talking about making spoiled horses and trick horses, and I'm not talking about that. But whatever it is that they want to do with their horse career, it can be done with positive reinforcement incorporated, right? I'm not talking about throwing out all the tools and the things they know and the baby out with the bathwater, but like you said, there is a kinder way, right? And so my dream for this farm would be to have a school where I could bring people along that maybe can't afford to or don't want to, be with an Olympic rider or whatever, because everybody doesn't have that opportunity. There's only so many Olympians, right? There's only so many top riders, and I was fortunate enough to have that experience with several, but everybody's not. And then for me personally, right, to really become better at building relationship, right? For me to be able to, because it's so, as an industry, we are an industry of critics, right? We look at the horse and the person go, and we see what's wrong, and we try to fix it. Well, I want to inspire people to be able to make those fixes themselves, right? I don't want to be the critic. And so I'm really working on how to relate to people and communicate with them and help them change their own behavior so that they can change their horse's behavior in a positive way. And then finally, as far as professionally, I would like to take the positive reinforcement back to the competitive arena and finish getting my medals. So still get my silver and my gold medal. Almost got my silver. So I just want to finish my silver and get my gold, because I believe that would bring a kinder vision and let people know, because a lot of people, if you can't show them the ribbons and the trophies, right, they won't even talk to me until they see like a picture of my tack room wall, and then they're like, oh, I'm interested. Right? And that's okay, right? Because everybody has their own path and their own goals. But I think it's important to not only say to the grassroots people who have their horse in their backyard, or the middle-aged woman who's boarding her horse, but also to those people who are aspiring professionals and aspiring amateur competitors, right? It can be done, and it can be done easier, and it can be done faster, and it can be done kinder, right? But you have to take that vision to the world. So personally, my last thing on my bucket list, really, I mean, of course, I've got a lot of little things, but big picture things, is to really enjoy the time that I have left here on this earth, right? To be able to enjoy every minute that I spend with every horse and every person that has a horse. So for me, I think that to be able to help people enjoy their horses humanely, right? But not burn myself out in the process, because that's been a huge thing for me, right? Like I've had to pull back several times, and so I think to be able to enjoy this lovely path that I've been blessed with, I think for me that's probably my biggest number one thing.
During COVID, I didn't work for 12, 14 months, because I did the events and I couldn't really do TV shows. And the one thing that I learned is that all this time I've ran at all these things with my hair on fire. And so during COVID, I had to learn to be still. And that's a hard lesson, but I've learned it. And so moving forward, I make sure on my calendar every day that I put time in to text message my grandchildren and to have lunch with our kids every other week and to never miss a birthday or a holiday again.
Oh, wow.
And because that balance.
That's a big shift for you.
It is a big shift.
I've seen you running ragged with your hair on fire.
They didn't even know who I was,
I do. I understand that.
But I realized I could be dead tomorrow, and that time is a precious commodity, and that if you don't have the balance, you're not living your best life, and you're cheating yourself. So I have built time into my life on this second chance to make sure that I have that balance, and that they all know that they're important, and that, I don't always just assume that they'll always be there. Because that's kind of how I was living in the
for sure. And I see that with my own horse as he stands out there and I'm doing all these training horses. I'm thinking he's aging, right? And no, he's not rideable anymore for physical reasons, but there's so many other things that I want to do with him. And what you just said is super powerful from a couple of standpoints with what we do, because one of the things that we're very big on is being, right? Being, as in how you feel on the inside and how your horse feels on the inside and how you feel when you're together, right? But also that relationship for us and our style of training and what we do, it's at the top, right? So I do want to be successful competitively, but I am not willing to sacrifice the health and well-being or emotional well-being of myself or my horse in the process. Right. And so that, I think, is what divides us from other people in other segments of the industry.
I agree, and I think when you run at it really hard and you get it, and then you realize that it wasn't all you thought it would be, and then you really have to do that deep inner reassessment, and what will make you happy, because this didn't work, and what is enough, because that's another hard question.
That's right.
And I had a long time to think about those things, and I feel much better mentally and emotionally this year than I did last year.
That's amazing. And I think people push horses, and like you said, they either do get the medal or they don't. But at the end of the day, they still have to go home at night and lay in bed and go, now what? What do I have? And if you don't have that relationship with your horse that you dream of, right? That magical connection, what are you left with?
That's right. And in everything you do. If you don't have that love and that bond, then the life is not worth living. So you really do have to reassess that. So, anything else you want to share with our listeners?
I don't think so, but I do just want to say that I think that you are doing a great service to the industry by doing these interviews and trying to bring more shared experiences and information to people to help the folks that are watching their horses, and I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I've been very blessed to know amazing people, and people that you might not realize are so amazing unless you really know them, and I know them in that way. So these stories have to be told, and they have to be put in concrete forever.
Well, as my daddy would say, you a star on your crown for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening, and for more about Melissa Deal, you can go to her website.
Yeah, CompassionateHorseClick.com or VictoryLandDressage.com, and definitely look for us on YouTube and Facebook too.
Absolutely. So thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Our souls wander in similar places. Even though we may not know each other, we touch the same wind, we walk under the same sky, and our hearts wander in the same dreams. We are one, women just like you and me. Thank you for listening.